Let's go for a run together. You know, with movies, there are R-rated movies, there are PG-rated movies. Now, I think with running is the same thing. Because what basically happens with running is there are many different ways to run. There are the running fanatics, and there are the people who run sometimes, they fall off track, get back on track, and so on. Now, I'm not interested about that. I'm more interested about the type of running that you can start doing and do for the rest of your life. So that is the kind of running I do. And I come from a very different background when it comes to running. I hated running with a passion. I did. Because I used to do it a lot. Tremendous amount. As part of my training, I had a lot of long distance running. And I had a very hard time with it because psychologically, they were injuring all of us as athletes when it comes to running. It was all about performance and the push. And you can only do that for so long. I come from a background of true hatred towards running, but I changed. I changed because there were people around me who I very much believed in, who loved running. And I figured there's no way that those good people can possibly love something so much, and I hate the same thing so much, hated the same thing so much. So I wrapped my mind around it, and I kind of realized the problem was the non-human type of running. That is what everyone does. All the ideas in the pop culture about running has nothing to do with the human type of running. So I'm not going to tell you that watching this episode you're going to learn everything about running, not at all. But maybe you can just turn your mind towards a different angle on running. So that's going to be the challenge today. Let's see if we succeed. Yes, I'm walking. Because as a human runner, you should have no preconceived ideas how you should do it. Indeed, if you do, you're not focusing on the human kind of running. All you're focusing on is performance and measuring up to an idea which you set for yourself, or a time, or a pace. But when you run like a human being, really meant to run, you need to take in consideration the moment. For your brain, psychologically, it is important that you do things in a way that it feels good. So I can keep coming back for more and more and more running in the future. If I force myself, next time it's going to be a little bit harder to come back psychologically, which is in the long run not sustainable. I'm interested in processes which you can do till the day you die, not because of the activity. So I want to run all the way until my last day, ideally. I can't do that if I'm continuously fatiguing psychologically. I need to take good care of not just my Achilles tendon, my ankles, knees, hips, lower back when it comes to running, and my neck, but also my mind. Most important. So I'm walking right now a little bit because it's too hot. Keep that in mind. Pay attention to your mind, because that's the one that's making you come back, or that's the one that will eventually make you quit whatever activity you do, especially running. When it comes to people, they always think about running and tracks and roads and easy environments. But you don't have to have that. If you're able to run on these kind of grounds, your ankles, your knees, your hips, and your entire brain just have to work harder, and you condition yourself differently. If you run semi-regularly in this kind of environment, what happens is your body gets conditioned differently. So when you go back to your normal tracks and trails and asphalt environment, your body is just going to be safer. You will have extra safety mechanism built around your ankles that are used to stabilizing your ankles under very challenging environment. So when you run on an easy environment, it doesn't matter if you step off a curb by accident or you step on a stone or something, your ankle is not going to get twisted. because your nervous system is used to taking care of your joints under these environments. Play around with that. Obviously, first you want to walk, then eventually gonna do a fast walk, and then eventually get into running. Anything where you challenge your nervous system, ultimately it's gonna be good for you, unless you injure yourself. So step by step, little by little. And eventually you can also make it into these very complicated environments. So I realized that this is not one of those subjects that I usually tell you guys. With the boxing, I just throw the punches out. It's all good. It's easy. Running is not like that. Because when you're running, there's a lot of loads on your joints, especially when you're running shoes. So you need to be wise and smart how you go about it. Harvard did a study on people who were running with shoes. They tested what kind of shear forces they have around their joints. And what they realized that, yes, when you walked, you had less shear forces around your joints as opposed to when you run. When you go barefoot running, especially if you have some sort of capability as a barefoot runner, there's no difference between what kind of shear forces go through your joints when you're running as opposed to when you're walking. That is why with barefoot running, you will not have injuries. Yes, here and there you will kick a stone. I did indeed kick stones in the past, which was painful and annoying. But that kind of pain goes away fast. Long time ago, I used to run in shoes regularly, continuously issues with the nails being pushed up from longer runs, continuously having issues with blisters and so on. They're just too annoying, honestly. All right, so let's say you want to go wild and you're willing to try to run barefoot. You don't need to think about one thing. You just start it and you go for it, and your feet will guide you how much you can and how much you should do. If you're in pain, listen to the pain. Don't overdo it. But if you decide that
I want to run, but I want to go the conventional when it comes to the modern way, and I want to use shoes,
you gotta wrap your mind around things a little bit more, okay? So let's talk about that a little bit. Okay, option 2. There's a few things you should consider when it comes to running with shoe. You cannot keep using the same shoe. If you do that, you're overusing a certain type of stride, a certain type of landing pattern, and that creates an overuse syndrome. And this is the reason most people have running-related injuries who run regularly. One way you can prevent that is utilizing different type of shoes. So I understand it seems like it's a big investment, but even if you just buy 3 different type of shoes and you keep altering them as you run, meaning one day you use this, the next day that, it will help you to at least not overuse the same exact way of running. Now, what you need to understand when you run this way, meaning you decide to run in shoe, you have got to make sure that you are smart about it. Because if you start to use minimalist shoe, you will destroy your feet. If you start to use 5 fingers and you're not careful, you might destroy your feet. If you are running longer than your body would allow you to run, a thick shoe will allow you to do that because it's a cushion. You can run longer than your body is actually ready to run. So that is a problem. You need to be very smart about it. So I would highly recommend for you to hire a running coach, the one that slowly progresses you, not fast. And if you do that, alternating between the different shoes, the no support shoe are great if you have a very good strong foot, a very good barefoot background, it's all good. But if you are even a regular runner and you're used to normal shoes and now suddenly you take away the cushion, you just don't have the foot structure to be able to handle the load that you're going to put your foot through. So you can break your bones in your feet literally running with minimalist shoes. So it is complicated. You really need to pay attention. You need to be so much more structured and organized. With barefoot running, it's easy. Your feet will guide you how much you can actually take. So I don't want to overcomplicate it. This episode is not about teaching you how to run. It's more about inspiring you to run, to look into it, to try to bring it into your everydays. So these are just some preliminary ideas you want to keep in mind. Your footwear, don't overuse the same type of running. Just be careful about how much you push yourself versus just going with the flow. Start little and rather progress on the long run as opposed to pushing yourself too hard at the beginning. Well, I would just recommend 1 minute running, 1 minute walking. Do that 5 times. That's how you should start. You should not run 2 days in a row if you're starting out. Give it a day or so in between. If you have muscle ache from the previous run, don't run until the muscle ache is completely gone. If you have any kind of pain in your foot, in your knees, around your hips or anything, even a muscle ache, wait until it disappears before you run again. These are just some basic principles you can use because the upside is huge. It really is. What you want to do is you want to keep it low intensity enough that you can breathe through your nose. If you're not able to do that, that probably means that you're running faster than you should. Now that usually throws people off because oftentimes they say,
Well, Chamba, I run incredibly slow if I'm only breathing through my nose.
Sometimes our conscious mind is not aware how exhausted we truly are. But if you pay attention to your breathing, it will give you an idea. And once you're connected to the human way of running, it's very, very difficult to run any other way because your body parts, your sweat glands, all of the many physiological structures that evolved to be used during running screams when you're not using the entire system its proper way. Your brain is screaming because you're focusing too much on your pace. Your brain is screaming because you're competing. Your Achilles tendon is complaining because it's doing too much work, as opposed to allowing your foot to take care of its job. So the Achilles tendon doesn't need to make up for its job. And all of your body is continuously screaming. So it's very difficult once you get on the right path when it comes to human type of running to actually stop it, even if the environment is pretty miserable. If there is metal, sidewalk, asphalt, traffic around you, my body knows how to run on top of this surface. Doesn't prefer it, it's not its favorite, but it can do it no problem without jeopardizing the soundness of my physiological, psychological, neurological, and spiritual self. I encourage you to just look into running and start running. Make it a serious commitment, little by little, to work up slowly your capabilities. 2-3 years from now, you can be a fantastic human runner. Thank you for watching. If you like this episode, please share, like, subscribe to our channel. Start running a little and apply yourself regularly and see how far you can take it without pushing your psyche or your body too hard.